Are you looking to get into the world of competitive drifting? First, you're gonna have to pick a chassis. You might ask me, why an S chassis, why an E46? And it all comes down to what you can get parts for, what's readily available, and what you're comfortable in. In this case, our friend Lucas from Brazil, he's comfortable in S chassis, so we built him an S14.9. First step of the build is finding the chassis. You can either go on Marketplace, maybe find an old car your grandma's got laying around, or find a buddy's project car that's been started, hasn't been finished, because then you're a little bit further along, makes your job a little bit easier. Nice part with this chassis is we found it already stripped, had all the sound deadening out, all the carpet out, and one thing with that, it sucks to take out the car. You might get money for it, but most of the time the interiors are shot, so we were just able to get a clean car, already had stitch welds done on the interior, already edge primered, so it was ready for me to just start fabricating, put a cage in instantly. I didn't have to go through dry ice to get all the sound deadening out of the car and all that dumb little stuff. So it was really nice when you can find a chassis that's already stripped, ready to go. It saves you a lot of time. It was a roller, so it still had a lot of good parts on it, and it came with a lot of interior pieces. It had a dash, it had door panels and everything from the interior, and then on the roller side of things, it had all brand new rear arms, brakes, everything like that on it. So this is all stuff that we could sell to get money to help fund the car. And the glass was just sitting on the car, so I didn't even have to get someone to come out and remove it. Front windshield's still in good shape, so we were able to reuse the front windshield after when we put the car back together. When you get the car on jack stands to start the fabrication, one major step to do is just level the chassis on the jack stands. If you have to add little plates on the corners, just level it out, because that way you can put a level in the chassis and you know that however you're building it is going to be level and it's not going to be off. Once you have your chassis, everything's stripped, you're going to want to go ahead and get yourself a Cage Kits cage. They make it super simple and easy. The cage comes pre-bent, notched, everything etched, just like a big Lego set. Set everything in where the base plates go and just grind down wire wheel. Get the chassis cleaned where you're gonna weld everything to, and then go ahead and get the main part of the cage tacked in there. Get it all tacked in place, and then once you have the whole structure of the cage tacked in place without the door bars or the X in the middle, you can go ahead, finish weld all of the welds you can see, drop the cage so you can weld the tops, and then slide it back up, because from there you never have to weld anything that's going to be at the top of the car. Then once you've got your main structure all pushed back up, you can go ahead and do your door bars, because without having the X in the middle, still allows you to pull the cage in to weld the back sides of all the door bars and the dash bar and everything. So you weld the backs, your intrusion bars, and it allows you to get everything fully welded and not miss anything on the welds. With this cage, I actually decided to TIG weld the whole cage. Cage Kits makes it very easy to do that with the fit up of their cages. There's no gaps anywhere, so right off the bat you can just clean the pipes, TIG it together, it's all good to go. One thing with anti-intrusion bars, you need to know the chassis before you do it. So with S chassis, you have to smash the firewall in to allow for the caster that the WiseFab calls for the front rack kit. So you had to take that into account before doing the cage, so you can get that smashed in so you don't have to cut the intrusion bar after to shorten it. So the intrusion bars I had to shorten about 1 inch because of where I moved the firewall to. But that's just one thing to look for when building the car. Make sure you don't have to clearance anything before you put the cage in, so then you know if any bars have to be a little shorter. If you're gonna cut the roof off the car and do like a carbon skin or something, know that before you do the cage too, because that can save you a lot of time on dropping the cage. Yeah, a lot of time. So you've got the car ready for chassis fabrication. You're gonna need all the parts that you're planning on putting in the car, your radiator, your fuel cell, battery, so that you can build the car around that. We went with a 6-gallon radium so that we can offset the driver weight. So with the 6-gallon, it's smaller, allows you to set it left to right in the car. And then I put the battery right next to it, and it's all notched into the rear hump of the S14 so that it's as low over the diff as possible, just to keep the center of gravity as low as possible. While doing the fuel cell and everything, you're gonna wanna put the subframe in the car with the winners so that you know that it's not gonna interfere with each other and nothing's gonna contact. There are some modifications you have to make just above it for it to bolt fully up. It's all really for serviceability. Here we can use the FCFT and still be able to pull our pumps straight out the top if we ever need to get to them. Batteries, nice easy location to get to if you ever need to jump it, service anything, switch it out. Then from there you move back and we have the radiator set up and the whole crash structure. So in drifting, you're gonna wanna cut the rear of the car off most of the time because there is contact. We do hit walls, we do hit other things, so we like to have a little bit of give back here. When that does happen, you're not ripping everything off and you're not putting important things back here in that zone. So we chose to build the main crash structure out of rectangle tube just because it's strong. You can make it look really nice. It gives you solid mounting for your bash bars to go to. This isn't gonna bend. The bash bar is always gonna bend well before this will ever do anything. So you can just always unbolt from there, add a new bash bar, and you have a solid structure that's not gonna move. Doubled as a radiator mount, gives us a nice solid location for it, and then we know that it's safe inside of there because nothing can physically hit it. If we're hitting here, you're not gonna hit the radiator, so keep everything nice and safe. The last thing we had to do in the rear to make it finalized was our block off plates. The main thing, you wanna keep clean air going through the radiator and keep the hot air on the other side. So this allows tire debris and everything not to keep coming up into the radiator, clogging it, making it harder to keep the car cool. And then the hot air will also circulate back into there if it's not sealed. So this is just a way to keep the car running cold, never get hot, and keep it clean. I don't want that whole area full of tire debris just because we didn't put side block offs. Big thing is keeping smoke out of the cabin as well. So in the wheel wells, they are fully cut as high as you possibly can and sealed with an 1/8 inch piece of steel, just so it's solid. The tire can hit it as many times as it wants and it's not going to do anything. And then it's fully welded just so that no smoke can go into the cabin from the wheel wells. I sealed in all the frame rails down there too so that it's fully sealed to keep as much smoke out of the car as possible. For a lot of the whole car, it's a lot of jumping between MIG welding and TIG welding. And it was just pick and choose of where I wanted to do each thing. Where like little fine detailed stuff, I TIG weld where you don't want the weld to really be seen and noticeable. Where like all the chassis welding, everything, the thicker metal to the chassis, all MIG welded just because the chassis metal is always a pain to weld to. MIG welding makes it way easier. You can focus on the thicker metal and just flick it down into the chassis metal, get a strong bond there. So it's a pick and choose of where you want to do each form of welding. But like stuff like the rear crash structure where you're gonna see all the welds, I chose to TIG weld it just because it looks a little cleaner and you don't see a big weld sitting there. With the use of the Bailey shop over there, it's made it really easy to be able to bend up our plates, get them cut, everything. We got the plasma table, so I can just measure sheet up, send it over to the plasma, get them bent up on our magnet press, bead roll them over there on our Bailey bead roller as well. Make it really simple, have a full panel made in like an hour. And if you're building this in your garage, like you can get yourself a manual bead roller on Marketplace. Harbor Freight got them. And the nice part about bead rolling, bending, all that, it just makes the metal stronger. It makes it so that flat panel isn't gonna want to warp, do all crazy things because it's got a nice solid bead roll in it now to just make it sturdy. And for cutting up the metal, you don't have to use a plasma cutter. You can get a handheld plasma. We got one over in the corner. Or my favorite tool, angle grinder. You can get anything made up with an angle grinder. Whip it up real quick, 5-minute bracket. I love making me those with an angle grinder. One thing when it comes to the rear is firewall location. You can put it on the cage right on the main hoop. You can choose anywhere in the back, or you can even encapsulate the fuel cell. There's all sorts of ways to get around doing it. I chose this way because it gives a nice home for the fuel cell, and then it leaves us being able to run a full back window. And then I find when you put the firewall on the cage, it just makes it feel really small inside the car. So I wanted it so it was still wide open, give you room for your cool soup box, anything else you want to put. If they ever want to put nitrous, they got room for it over here. With being able to run a full window, it gave a nice spot for us to put our radium quick fill. It's a perfect location with the height of the car and everything. Nice, easy to get the can up there, put it in. Got their clear hose so then we can see if the tank's full when it is full. One thing to think about always is the fluid delivery, how you're going to do it, if you're going to run bulkheads or if you're going to cut holes for the lines to pass through. In an example here, we have two 16ANs and a 6AN that have to run to the front of the car. So I just made a pass through, cleaned up the edge, made it nice so that the lines can't chafe and everything on there and get cut open. And then for the whole fuel system, we run bulkheads, pass it. But just think about where they're gonna run, how you're gonna have to cover it, if you're gonna run them through the car, where you're gonna put it, because that plays a big role coming into chassis stuff, because you don't want to paint the car and then go, oh no, the line's gotta go here. It goes the same for electrical. Plan on where it's gonna run, where you'd like it to go, because there's bulkheads, everything that have to go in the car. Or like if it's not fancy mil spec, then you're gonna have to drill holes where you want to pass your harnesses through, put your grommets, everything there. When you're going through the chassis and you're cutting holes and everything, you also have to plan on what holes that you can block off in the chassis. There's a bunch of holes in this chassis that need blocked off, weren't gonna be used. Just keep smoke out of the car. That's all we're trying to do. Get all the holes filled that we can that ain't gonna be used in the car. Coming into competition, you have to think about all the safety aspects of it too. Fire suppressions are required in these cars, so you have to plan on where you're gonna put it, where the lines are gonna go. You need one for the fuel cell, one for the driver, and then you have two in the engine compartment as well. And then where the pull cord, everything has to be located. Ours is up on the pillar where they require it in FD. Firewall being in the back, it allowed us to be able to put the cool suit back in the car, nice easy spot. It has a removable window on the other side of the car as well, so they can access the cool suit cooler, fill it with ice, get the water out of it, whatever you need to do. Once you have everything of the car gone, you're gonna have to think about how you're gonna mount everything. How you're gonna mount the trunk, the bumper, everything like that. I do the thing where I look at a bunch of people's cars build. I looked at James Dean's car that they recently built, and it uses these crazy cool little cage clamps that just allow you to be able to weld metal to it, make a mount off of it, then it can bolt to a cage pipe. So that was very useful to do all the trunk mounts, the bumper mount, everything like that, nice and sturdy, removable. You can change it between your bash bars and still have your mount. So all the fabrication up until this point has not been engine specific, but you know us here at Drift HQ, we decided put a 2J in it because that's what we know here. They're very proven engines. We've used them all the time, so we know everything about them, what they need, and what is required to put it in a car. This car is running front rack wise fab, so we had to go with the rear sump pan. You have to modify the subframe, everything to make it fit. With this car, we also chose to do the frame rail mounted engine mounts from Group D. We can position the engine anywhere. We pair it with a dog box, which required us to put in a Laria tunnel in the car, because it just gives that room for serviceability, being able to take the dog box out of the car real quick at the track, anything like that. Makes it way easier when you have that room in the trans tunnel. We have a fully built 2J in the car. Drift HQ offers 2Js on the website. You can get yourself one. We got the plasma man intake manifold on there with ID injectors. We got our phase turbo manifold with the G35 1050. All a really good recipe to make this thing make good power. The car is running a Link Fury with a full Wiring Specialties engine harness in it. Wiring Specialties makes plug and play harnesses for like everything. And then for the chassis side of the harness, it's running ECU Masters, PDM, and Hardstock did all the wiring in the chassis of the car. Really clean, nice bulkheads. He brought me the interior harness the one day. I drilled all my bulkheads, put it in, and then he showed up with the rest of the harnesses to run the whole front of the car, rear of the car. So everything chassis-wise is ran through the PDM and ECU. So you only have to turn on ignition and fuel, and then everything else on the car turns on by itself, which is really beautiful. Link offers the full flying lead harness for the engine harness, so if you want to do it yourself, pin it out, do all that stuff, you can. And then for like the PDM side of things, you don't have to go as crazy as a PDM in these cars, really. You can get away with the ARC panel. It's just as simple, works really easy, gives you fuses and relays, and then you just run your powers to all of your components, but then it's just harder for the ECU to run it. In order to mate the dog box to our JZ, it is required that you have to have an SFI bell housing. When anything explodes inside of here, it can't come out of there. And inside of here, we have the new Atom LZ Clutch Masters triple disc. We know it's proven, we know it can handle all the power that we need it to. Trans mount, get yourself nice thick material. Try to go to the factory holes, gives you nice locations to go to. We got our drive shaft hoop, which is just required by the rules. We run Drive Shaft Pro drive shafts. We're not worried about our drive shafts breaking, so that's just here to pass the rules. You have to take into accountability the side that your turbo manifold is on and the side that your steering column's on, because in this case it's the same side, which makes the fabrication a bit more tricky because your downpipe has to avoid the column, and then you have to make sure that your brakes and your clutch and everything is far enough away from the downpipe that you're not going to burn it up, and there's room for everything to be in its happy place. We did have to get a modified manifold just for this car, for the downpipe, everything to work. Now it comes time to mount locations, everything like that. This car, the dog box had a different pedestal on it. I chose to move the shifter further back so that I thought it would suit him better, lines up better with the wheel, location wise. So like all this stuff has to go into account when fabricating, because where I'm gonna drill the hole can only really be done once. Then from there you can figure out your handbrake location, start mounting up your ECU and all your other locations of things, and just positioning everything in the car to get all your fabrication stuff done, because everything needs to be 100% before you can send the car to be painted. For the ECU and PDM mount, there's been a lot of cool videos of these guys overseas building these cool drift cars, like straight down to chassis, on how they did their mounts and everything like that, and the way they looked. So I like the waterfall look that they went for, so I was able to dimple die, make this cool waterfall in the middle, nice and simple for the two units to mount on. It makes the wiring actually kind of nice under there, because then it can go up to the roll cage and it's not seen. So when it comes to fabrication stuff, you're gonna have to take the seat into account. Since we're building the car for someone else, I was able to get them to send me the measurements of where his seat in his car over there is. So then I was able to match that to the location of the pedals and the column. And in the series we're running, we have to run factory pedals, factory columns. So this car is all factory setup, just modified mount to the cage and everything like that. The nice part with this being an S chassis and right-hand drive is I didn't have to do a cat hump delete, because most of the time if you're left-hand drive S chassis you have to deal with the cat hump, delete that. But since it's right-hand drive, we don't have cat hump, and we didn't have to delete that on this side, which made it real nice. If you have a USDM one, Aloya also offers the cat hump delete, or you can just flip it, cut the piece out, flip it, put it back in. It's not that bad. I was sitting in the car testing it. I felt the pedals were awkward and everything like that, so I took the opportunity to make a raised floor for the car, gave it a nice solid spot and with the grip and everything, and then made the pedal height seem a lot better in the car and made it more comfortable to sit there. Driver comfort is really important when they have to spend a whole day inside the car. You want to be as comfortable as possible in here, so then you're not set off by anything. The car, we went with Sparco seats and harnesses. Sparco just makes really nice safety equipment for the cars, made it so everything in the car is using all the same stuff. We got Sparco wheel seats, harnesses, of course halo for the driver, just because that's what a lot of the series require. And then passenger is not required for it, so we mounted it as far back as possible, just out of the way, so it's never in the driver's view. I went with the IRP handbrake on the car just so I could have the reverse mounted master, get it up out the way so it's not towards the seat, makes it a little cleaner, more simple. Just running back to some Z32 calipers. We have Z32 the whole way around on the car. Makes a nice, really good upgrade for the car. The whole car running Drift HQ lines on it. We have the full Drift HQ hydro lines, running a bunch of their lines for the brake line system as well. Made everything soft line, makes it so it can run very easily wherever you need it to in the car. Then the rest of the brake system for the normal brakes on the car, running a full chase base 6-to-1 with all their brake lines to go to the front brakes and then send it all the way back to the rear. Quick install, bolts right to the pedal, through the firewall, give you manual brakes, really good feel, make sure you can stop every time. So the same mounts that I used to mount the bumpers, everything onto the car, I also used under the dash to mount the keypad, so that the keypad can be put anywhere along the dash bar. So wherever he's comfortable with it, if he wants it over here, over there, the wiring's all made so that the keypad can be put anywhere in the car to make it nice and suitable for him. It makes it nice because you can remove the dash without the keypad or anything having to come out the car. So for the series that we run everything, we used to run kill switches up on the cowls and everything like that, but now it's just required wherever the driver is, right on the A-pillar, so that you can just quick push, shuts the car off. Anyone can reach in the car, quick push, shut it off. Makes it very simple, useful location. Rad Industries makes all these really nice cage mounts for your fire suppression, the switch, and they also make one for nitrous as well, because if you run nitrous, you also need a kill for that. When building the car, you gotta think about what dashboard you can put in it. A lot of people run the factory ones, trim it for the cage. We went with a 2F fiberglass one for an S14. We trim the bottom off of it, and then yes, it requires a lot of trimming, in and out a bunch of times to make it fit really nice. But now it's very simple. One bolt on each side, dash slides out, able to access everything. Link ECU dash mounted up, and we got our power steering control and our cool suit control all in the dash. We have electric power steering on this car instead of the mechanicals. Dodge Durango electric power steering pump off a big SUV, so it makes the steering really light because it's meant to turn like a 7,000 pound SUV wheels, and now it's going onto a 2,800 pound S chassis. The way the Dodge mounted them factory in the car, really awkward. So I just made my own mount, pick up on a couple holes that the pump has, made it so solid mounts of chassis, easy to slide in and out, easy to switch the bracket to other pumps if we ever have to change the pump. To control the whole power steering system, we have the hang tight set up. It's really nice plug and play can control, so it just gives you a turn dial, give it power, everything works perfectly. One thing about these pumps is they are like orientation specific, so you can only really mount the pump sideways like this, or else it doesn't really transfer the fluid how it's supposed to. They actually have interchangeable end tanks, so if I wanted this to be a remote reservoir pump setup, I could put the other end tank on here, and it would allow it to have a remote reservoir mounted somewhere else. We have this massive Treadstone intercooler on here with the CSF oil cooler. So you have to go about making all your mounts, doing all the fabrication, make sure everything's in a good home and that there's room for everything. Because once you have your catch can in there, all that, the engine bays start to get crowded pretty quickly. True Focus Fab makes the factory location catch cans for S chassis for either side of the car with left-hand drive or right-hand drive, so it makes it really easy to have a nice catch can that's drainable and serviceable in the corner of the engine bay out of the way. So the front end of the car is primarily stock. We have a True Focus bash bar that bolts right up to the factory bash bar locations, which is nice, keeps everything squared. And then we have our oil cooler just stuffed up into the front core support with a fancy little bracket that goes across, bridges it all together. Joelle actually gave me some inspiration and some, build it like this maybe and that will work. And then my brain put it together using cardboard, my favorite. Cardboard aided design. Cardboard everything before you make it out of metal. Cardboard is way cheaper than metal. So you can design it out of cardboard, make sure it fits in there good, looks good, and then get it made out of metal. Gives you your bend marks, everything when you go to make it out of metal. Now that we've got everything mounted in the rear, the engine in the car, all of our components mounted, we can move on to plumbing the car, getting our intercooler pipe made, our exhaust made, and then all of the lines that have to run from the front to the back of the car, your oil cooler lines, your coolant lines, your fuel lines, all of that needed to be ran. On this car, we went with a full vibrant 3.5-inch stainless for everything. So we got the whole down pipe. I chose to put the flex pipe in the lower section just for vibrations and everything. The metal does move when it heats and expands. Always nice to give it one little flex somewhere so that it's not all solid. I made just these half-cut exhaust hangers just so you can put a clamp on it. It's nice when you go to mount the exhaust up because you can just sort of slide it into its location and it'll hold it in place. Then we have a Turbo Smart 50 mil wastegate on this girl. Big dump tube, point it at the ground, get it out the way, make all the cool noises. I made the Chris Ward Special. Couldn't leave the car without exhaust tips with a big hole. Full vibrant titanium scraps we had laying around, make it nice. Get the color in there, make it look like a real exhaust. Funny part is, the day I made the set for this, I was on FaceTime with Sean. He walked over to Chris and Chris had fallen off his car on the mountain somewhere. So he thought I made him a spare set, but it was really for me. I welded a bunch of washers to the bottom of the chassis so that it gave me somewhere to put all my lines. Take a washer, you bend it kind of 45, give it a 90-degree bend basically, so that when you tack weld it up to the chassis on each side, you can still pass the zip tie through the middle hole of it. Gives you a nice spot to zip tie everything up to that's sturdy. It's not gonna rip off the car. On drift cars, we use zip ties for a lot of things. It's something we always have at the track, readily available. So like if anything was to ever happen, you need to do something where you have to access something, you can easily cut the zip ties, pull it off. It's nice and quick. They're not gonna give over just the weight of water in the lines or anything like that. When you go rear mount radiator, you're gonna need an electric water pump. We have the Mazir 55-gallon electric water pump up in here. Nice hole for it to hide into. You have to really think about the orientation of the pumps because they will cavitate if you don't have them oriented the perfect orientation. Make it hard to bleed your cooling system. So just think about that when you're mounting your pump. And then think about the location, how everything's gonna run. S chassis are kind of nice because they have a lot of room above the rear subframe where the old fuel tank used to be. When you're running your lines, think about if you need covers or anything like that. Like this spot is one spot of S chassis that you know is always board slid, always hits the ground. So I just built a nice steel cover here that if it hits, the lines will be good. And then they all tuck in behind the frame rail from here forward. So for the whole car, we use Vibrant lines for everything. It's all just standard Vibrant E85 rated lines. We have 8AN for the fuel lines. We have a 6AN for our upper coolant port. And then we have two 16ANs just going for the radiator lines. So you can do PTFE for your power steering lines just because they are way higher pressure. We did a BMRS line. Freddie over on Adam's side quickly just whipped me up one really fancy crimp line, high pressure. But other than that, all the lines are really simple in the car, just normal AN. When you get your intercooler, everything mounted in the car, you have to think about how you're gonna run the pipes. For this one, I had to do this crazy 90 just to make it so that there was enough room to make the two join with each other and to make sure there was enough room there that everything could fit and the pipe could actually connect. This distance and this distance seems like a lot and pretty easy to make that work, but once you start adding the pieces in, it gets very tricky. I had to machine the throttle body actually as far as I could to make it so that I had the most room possible. Intercoolers usually come with end tank exits on each side. This one had it on this side. We chopped it off and I moved it so that the location of the pipe was much nicer. It didn't have to go into the wheel well or anywhere that it could be hit. We chose to run the Vibrant HD clamps on everything. It just makes it really nice and easy to be able to fit the pipes, get them in and out, and then they look really nice and they're really good for holding all the boost that the car makes. They don't leak, anything like that. We don't have to worry about couplers popping off or clamps coming loose or anything like that. In the rear of the car, we have the whole catalog back here. We have a RiseFab subframe for the Winners, where we had to just notch a little bit for the crossover pipe. Other than that, it fits good. It doesn't contact the chassis above anywhere. Rear RiseFab grip kit. Everything's set up. I've already done a full alignment on the car, so it's all ready for him to go. Full bolt on, you don't need to change subframe pickup points, nothing like that. Just buy it, bolt it onto the car, good to go. Every part is numbered, so if anything ever breaks, you hit anything makes it easy to reorder the parts. We also run the RiseFab axles, 1500 horsepower rated, so they have this cool line on them that lets you know if the shaft is twisting at all. It can do a full 360 before it's any bad. Once you start seeing the twisting though, you normally replace it, but at least gives you a tail sign that the shaft is actually doing something. In drifting, wheel speed is really one of the most important things when it comes to it because it helps you control tire life, the speed you're going to be going around any track, and lets you just gear your car perfectly for each track that you're at. So this Winners makes it nice and easy for us to just quickly pop the cover off, change our wheel speed, and get us set up for each track that we're at. And you can get away with the stock diff game, you're just gonna be driving around with a lot of stock diffs. And diffs are heavy, yeah. You could be more money in stock diffs than one Winners would cost you. And then we have fuel suspension on the whole car as well. Get it all dialed in, ready to go. Odie knows these S chassis really well, so he was able to whip together spring rate valving for us to get it ready for competition. We went with the RiseFab V3 kit, which moves it from a rear rack to a front rack, gets rid of like suspension bind at full lock. You're never gonna get stuck at lock on the front rack car. So it just makes the drivability of S chassis that much better than it already was. But with it, you do need to do quite a bit of modifications to the subframe, but they give you a full cutout sheet of everything that you need to remove with the instructions of how to remove it, how to make it fit. They were even nice enough to send us some right-hand drive E-chassis racks because they're kind of hard for us to get over here. They were nice enough to send us over 3 racks for this car, so we have spares, we have everything for it. And it's really simple. Once you have the subframe in, they give you the extender to make it go to the factory column, and then bolts up. Get your full on-car caster adjustment. And you're always going to want to have spares. If you're getting into competition drifting, no matter what, have 2 kits of everything. If you're going to crash, you're going to break stuff, you're going to need spares, so you're going to look at who's going to always have spares ready for you. Drift HQ normally always has spares in stock, ready to go, ready to ship, so that always makes it nice. So for this car, we just threw on a PBM sway bar, factory end links. We're probably going to change up the end links later on to get full adjustment out of them. The front sway bar stops the 2 front wheels from being independent from each other, locks them together, so it creates more jacking and stuff. Under full lock, the car will pick up and do everything to transfer the weight to the rear of the car to give you a little more grip. Yeah. So the whole car is using a 2F body kit, S14.9 conversion kit, and it was flawless. Like, I bolted the whole kit up. I haven't done really any trimming. The only part I had to trim was here, but that's because of the angle kit and the front bumper, but that was because of the bash bar. But other than that, everything bolted right up. I just drilled all the holes out where they're marked in the mold, and then it bolts right up to the car. And we used the S14.9 conversion front fenders, which is really nice because it adds the section here that the 15s don't have, and then it lines the door up to make it so that everything can fit on S14 with the whole S15 front and look like a normal fender still. The whole rear end clamshell just sets right on the car. Didn't have to trim the front of it, nothing. Taillights fit in perfectly. Then the bumper molds up really nice. Made putting the kit together a really easy job when most of the time that is a really time consuming and tricky job to do. The one thing with the 2F, like trunk hood, they are just a skin and it's very understandable, so they are a little flimsy. So I just added some aluminum to it just to stiffen up the edges so it doesn't flop around as much, and then I put a grate in the back so that we have ducting for our radiator, everything like that, give the air somewhere to go. Now that everything has been put into location, plumbed, welded in, all that, it's now time to take the whole car apart, make sure that everything is finished weld and all your holes are filled in, and then send the car to paint. We sent ours to paint. You can also paint it yourself. I did my Z with Steel It. Makes it nice and simple. Just get a bunch of cans of it, paint it up. But the last thing you want is all the bare metal exposed to the weather because it's gonna start to rust fairly quickly. So get all that done so then you can get the car back and start assembling it again. While the car was off at paint, I got a bunch of my brackets sent to powder coat, and then all the ones that really weren't as important, like the pedal brackets, everything like that, I just hit them with Steel It, get them cleaned up, get everything looking brand new, so when the car came back from paint, everything was new that was going on to the car. So when the car came back from paint, the whole outside of the car was good. The body kit was all painted white, perfect. The chassis was all done in silver, but there was one last part of the car that was not painted, and that was the underside of the car. We were a little time schedule crunch, so I took the task of painting the bottom of the car on myself. Had to go about getting everything off the bottom of the car, getting it cleaned, not get any of the brand new paint all messed up with my paint that I was doing. The paint on the bottom of the side of the car, the 415, that stuff turned out amazing. Lays down really nice. And then the last part was just wastegate lines when the car came back from paint. Those last fittings that I had to do on the car was make sure the wastegate was all good. And then from there, the car was 100%. But it took some time of getting the car back together because you don't want to scratch any of your new paint. Take your time, get all the pieces back in there very carefully and gently and in the order that you want them to go back into the car, because you have to think about what you want to put in first, making sure that you're not going to have to put wires somewhere or something else. Last thing this car needed was some wheels to make a roll. And Kanzai hooked it up with a fresh set of tandems for the car. And they actually sent us 10, so we have plenty of spares for the rear. And it runs the same fitment all 4 corners, so it makes it nice and easy. You can use rears as spare fronts and everything, so you share wheels the whole way around on the car. Makes it nice and simple. Always a massive thank you to Kanzai for working with us on all of our builds and getting us hooked up with all the best wheels. just going over a last bit of the finishing touches of the car, we added funk blanket for heat and all the heat sleeving on all the lines after they were already made. Just anything that was close to the turbo or anything hot on the engine got heat sleeving put on it just to clean it up. Now that we have everything basically in the car, we had to get all the glass installed. Got my quarter windows made, glass installed in the front, and then we went with this single wiper mod. It's not very often that we're driving in rain, and when it does, you're really looking at the side windows and not really the front. So you only need a single wiper, you don't need the 2 wiper mod. It looks cool. I weighed the car just to check out corner balance, where the car was at weight wise, and without fluids the car was 2580, and then once I put fluids in it the car was 2720, and the weight balance actually is pretty good in the car. So the rear is only 40 pounds different left to right, and the front's like 30 pounds different left to right. Then with driver in it, it's really close. And then the weight distribution ended up being 54% on the nose and 46% on the rear, which makes it really good for drifting because it allows it to transition around the nose of the car, give you a little more front weight, and then that transfers really well to the rear for grip. So in the end, it shows that positioning of all the products really does matter, because if I didn't offset the fuel cell and the battery and everything to account for his weight, then the weight balance of the car would have been thrown off quite a bit. And then it comes to a problem when you're going to corner balance the car, because then you have one side of your car is jacked up really high to try and take the weight from the other side of the vehicle. It makes your alignments all really weird. Now that the whole car is together, it is time for the fun part, do the base map, get to start the car for the first time. So Freddie and Hardstock were able to go through, each person bebopping 2 laptops at once, got everything programmed, primed all the systems, and then got Freddie on the base map, did the first start. And there was some oil. Oh! No, there's a hole in the block that I didn't know about.
What? Some interesting sounds.
Oh, wow. And then I found out that the wastegate lines are live and that they create sparks and the brake cleaner lights on fire fast.
How did this happen? Don't get the can near it, Donnie.
But it was small fire, so fire is good. As long as I don't catch car on fire, we good. Other than that, once I got the oil leak figured out, we successfully got the car started up. And it runs really good, seemed really well. Freddie got the base map, brake in, did all that, and then it was time to get the car on the dyno, see what power it was gonna make.
quick fill, bro. Woo!
But we just wrapped up tuning Lucas's S14, S15, S14.9, whatever you want to call it. We ended up stopping at 800 wheel at 25 pounds of boost. It actually wants to keep progressing due to the plasma and plenum, but this is a stock crank motor with a stock oil pump, so I capped it at 8,200 RPM just to give it some longevity. He's doing Pro-Am and like L0 tour events, so he doesn't need a ton of power. So this is his high boost button. The low boost button makes 700 wheel, which is kind of on wastegate. Conservative, drive the car, learn the car. If you don't like certain things, we can play with turbo sizing. And then he has the future option to go with more power for Pro-Am and or Pro Spec in the future. It's a good, basic, nothing's too crazy, nothing's on kill mode. It is just a good, global, easy setup.
So this car has been under wraps really since it came back from paint. Lucas has not seen the car, so now that it's done dyno, it's done everything. He's currently at Long Beach with Adam and the whole team there. So he gets to fly in Monday and we get to unveil the car to him, and he finally gets to see what he will be competing in for his 2026 season.